Okay, we are live, thank you. Okay, chapter 2 is all about the YCJA, Youth Criminal Justice Act. I think it's Act, okay? The main question here, grade 9s, as you see on the board, to what extent is the justice system fair and equitable? Okay, so there's three things there. Justice system, which you'll need to understand. You'll start to understand what that is. And the words fair and equitable. Okay, that's what we're going to look at. So, the fact that there is a YCJA, and I'm going to continue to refer to it as YCJA, Youth Criminal Justice Act, is because we understand from a psychological point of view that adults and children are different. The reason they're different is because it takes around 20 to 25 years for the front part of your brain to finish developing. They call that the prefrontal cortex. What that part of your brain does is it's essentially your decision-making part of the brain, right? So it's also your ability to think forward into the future. And so many of you might have found this scenario to have happened in your life. You know, you do something really stupid, teacher calls you out for it, you get into trouble, and they ask you, why'd you do that? How many of you raised your hand and just said, I don't know why I did that. I've done that plenty of times in my life. It's more than I can count. Like this one time, I know why I did it, but I don't know why I did it. And maybe I shouldn't say this on the camera, but I was in like grade 3. Some kid was taking too long to go down the slide. I pushed him. Oh. I don't know why I did that, but it was like, hey man, you're taking too long. Pushing you is the best thing. I don't know why I didn't think to ask this young man. I don't know why I didn't think to ask the supervisor, like, hey, can you get this guy to go quicker? He won't go. I want to go more times. I just thought the best thing to do is to push this guy. What do you think happened? To me. Oh. I'm pretty sure I got suspended. I don't know, maybe not. But this kid went down the slide face first, and man, was not having a good time. Now imagine if pushing kids down a slide was a criminal act. Well, then I would have gone to jail, right? I would have broken the law, right? And there are many things that are legal and illegal. So another primary excellent example. I am in grade, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9. I'm in junior high. And we find out that our buddy Elliot, I shouldn't say his name, but whatever. Anyways, we find out this kid, he got into trouble at the Safeway nearby to our school. He was shoplifting. Okay. What do you think he stole?
Cereal, body butter.
Cereal, body butter. Cough syrup? No, we weren't doing that back in my day. He stole a little, like, roll thing of cookie dough. And why do you think this young man stole this cookie dough? He's hungry. That's a good potential.
Didn't have money to buy it.
Didn't have money to buy. That's another good potential.
Craving.
So I would assume he didn't have enough money to buy it, but he did not steal it for himself. He stole it for a girl that he liked.
Oh.
And so this guy got caught, and the security guards told him, hey, well, we're not going to call the police. This is petty theft under $5,000, and you're a young offender. This is the first time you've ever stolen something. But that was his first run-in with the law. Hopefully that was his last, okay? The idea is that when you are under the age of 18, and some would even argue 25, in that range, when you're below that age range, it's very difficult for you to plan ahead to the future, right? That's why most of you, when you go home, especially the young guys, you probably just spend your time playing video games, right? Or you're doing something that's not very productive. Maybe the girls as well. Maybe you're just scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, taking selfies, sending them to people, right? You're not thinking towards the future. And so the same process goes when you're like, hey, should I or should I not punch that guy in the face? Should I or should I not steal that cookie dough for the girl? Should I or should I not push this kid down the slide because they're taking too long? You're not thinking through the consequences and the future potentials because your brain isn't fully developed. Therefore, it would not be fair or equitable to then say, hey, if you, young person, do something that's illegal, we should punish you the same as an adult. And so because of that, we have the YCJA. Okay. Now, along with that comes the responsibility and the knowledge that just because you don't know a law, you break it, doesn't mean that you are exempt from the consequence or the punishment. So you can't say, sorry officer, I didn't know stealing cookie dough was illegal. I didn't know I couldn't pay for it later. I just needed it right now. No, you can't say that. I can't tell the officer, sorry officer, I didn't know the speed limit was 50 here. I don't know why I was going 70. I thought it was 60. The officer's gonna say, well, you were responsible for knowing the speed limit where you're driving and operating your vehicle. You're guilty. Okay. Now the interesting part here, which is not in the slide, is that how many of you have ever been educated, you can raise your hands, on what is legal and illegal? Is there a class in school on laws you can break, laws you can't break, should or shouldn't break? No, right? And so is this fair and equitable that we're not properly educated on what the laws are, but yet if we break one, we're responsible? Common knowledge, some people might say, and I would agree to an extent. Sometimes the laws are so obvious, they're so part of our everyday culture that it does seem like to many of us, oh, it's common knowledge, right? I mean, we all know that you're not supposed to speed, although some of us still do, guilty as charged. We all know we're not supposed to steal to an extent, right? And cultures can vary on this, and that makes it complicated, right? And we talk more about that in globalization in grade 10. Okay? But you don't want to be this guy. You don't want to be the dummy. You don't want to say, hey, I didn't know, and hope that that makes sure that you get away from whatever crime you did. Okay? Now, there is a difference between doing the crime and being accused of doing the crime. Okay, do we know the difference? Can anyone explain, what does it mean to be accused of committing a crime?
It hasn't been proven.
It hasn't been proven, right? So I could say that, well, I can't use your names in the video. I could say one of my students stole my granola bars. I don't know who, but it was one of you. And then maybe I point the finger at someone. That one over there. And I said, that student stole my granola bars. Punish the student. Are we allowed to just punish? No, because that student, and I can't say their names and you shouldn't either on the video, that student is innocent until proven guilty, right? As long as our system is working well. Okay? But what they aren't is, hey, this person didn't know. No, we don't do that around here. Okay? So they had the Young Offenders Act, the YCJA. I believe this is slide 4. The YCJA came into effect on April 1st, 2003. I don't know why they didn't wait till the 2nd. I don't even know if you kids know what April 1st is.
April Fool's Day.
Okay, you do, thank God. I almost lost my hope in humanity there. Okay. It replaced the Young Offenders Act. And the Young Offenders Act replaced the Juvenile Delinquents Act. So even if you look at the name, they used to call it the Juvenile Delinquent Act. That's what they used to think of you, juvenile delinquent. You know what the word delinquent means? I don't even know what the word means because I don't use that word. But I understand the context. You don't look at a good kid and call him a delinquent. You look at a bad kid. And a kid with a history of doing bad, and maybe their parents used to do bad. You say that kid's a delinquent. And they changed the language. They called it a Young Offenders Act. So, okay, maybe you're not all terrible. You're young and you offended. You did something you weren't supposed to do. And then it got even a little bit softer. They just called it the Youth Criminal Justice Act. Although, if you just call them a criminal, it's pretty forward. Okay. Now, the YCJA is trying to rehabilitate people. Do we know what that word means? Rehabilitation? Let's hear it back there.
Like fix them, like make them a better person.
Yeah, fix them, make them better, right? Heal them, recover them. Has anyone here broken a bone or twisted an ankle really bad? Right? They put you onto physical rehabilitation, rehab, right? There's also rehabilitation for certain substances. And the whole idea is to better your relationship with either the substance, to better your body through recovering it, or better your relationship with society, ideally. Now, sometimes, you know, if you choose to do something really bad, I don't know, like poke somebody with a sharp object repeatedly, maybe we need to put you into a little prison area. Put you in a little timeout. Because you shouldn't poke people repeatedly with sharp objects, okay? Don't do that, okay? What else do I want to say? So, part of the reason why they brought in the YCJA is because the act before it essentially stated that anyone over the age of 12 could be criminally responsible for breaking laws. Okay, so think about that. You're all over 12, but you're not that much over 12. And so imagine you do something illegal. And again, as I mentioned before, they say, hey, we're going to punish you the same way we would punish Mr. Kawaja, who's almost 27. Do you think that's fair? Why is that? I think it's plenty fair. If I steal something and you steal something, why do I get a worse punishment? Because I'm an adult? Oh, come on. Come on, Your Honor. I didn't know that if I was an adult, I got punished worse.
Because we're still, the frontal cortex is not done developing. Therefore,
Yeah.
you can't think straight.
Yeah, right? So ideally, hopefully, by my ripe age of almost 27, my brain is fully developed. And you know, I stopped doing dumb things, stupid things, reckless things, especially as a guy, right? Because, God, testosterone is a hell of a drug, kids. It can make you do some crazy things, okay? But when you're 12, 13, 14, even up to 18, maybe one, you don't know how to have full control over yourself, and two, you don't really recognize the consequences of what you're doing, right? And so it makes sense, right? Hey, we can't punish kids at 12 years old like they're adults. That would be terrible. So one of the things that they were trying to avoid was basically giving a 16-year-old child a life sentence. Could you imagine that? From 16 until, I don't know, 75, 80 years old, you spend your day locked up in a prison. It'd be terrible. Some of the punishments, some of the crimes they mention here, murder, sexual assault, that kind of stuff. So something very extreme. But, you know, at a point in your life where you can change, right? Like when you're 16, you can definitely change by the time you're 25. Yes?
I thought that out for life means like 25 years or whatever.
No, the common phrase is 25 to life.
Oh.
Right? Because around 25, when you're an adult, that's when they start giving you adult sentences. And so an adult sentence, and that might be more of an American thing. An adult sentence can be, I lost my train of thought, but an adult sentence, so if you do something as a criminal and you're punished as an adult, then they will potentially give you a life sentence, right? Like in America, you can be given like 2 or 3 life sentences if you do something that, I don't know, is deemed to be worthy of a 2 or 3 life sentence punishment, right? So if you kill multiple people, right, you'd have to do something very extreme. So part of the YCJA is helping you understand the impact of your action, which, you know, as I mentioned before with the whole brain development, is very hard as a young teenager, especially your age, grade 8, grade 9, to understand your impact on other people. It's very difficult. Like I see it with my students all the time. Like some students are just horrible to one another, and it makes no sense to me. As an adult, like I wouldn't treat people like that. At least not all of them, you know. But you know, when you're a teenager, when you're going through puberty, all the hormones, you're dealing with everything going on in school, it's very tough to think outside of yourself and to think like, hey, if I treat this person this way, how will they feel about it? It's very challenging. And so similarly with the YCJA, if they're trying to tell a 15-year-old why stealing is wrong, it might be very difficult for that 15-year-old to understand the impacts of stealing, especially if we come back to some of those reasons we mentioned before of, you know, if you don't have enough money, if you don't have enough food, if you don't have any way of getting a job. That might lead you to doing things like stealing and, you know, acting on crimes more than someone who doesn't have that problem, right? Now here are your rights, kids. You have the right to remain silent, and you probably should, because you'll probably say something dumb. Okay. If a police officer pulls you over, and it wasn't for something like speeding, hopefully that doesn't happen to you. No, you have the right to remain silent. You're free to do that. You have the right to speak to a lawyer, a parent, or a guardian, right? So you can say, officer, I don't fully understand what's going on. I want to speak to a lawyer. I want to speak to my parents. You have that right, and you don't have to continue discussing with them. Now they might, maybe I shouldn't say this on camera. You might feel pressured to, and they might try different tactics of trying to get into your vehicle or trying to get information out of you. But remember, anything you say can and will be used against you. Never forget that, right? So don't be rude either, right? Because they're not RoboCop, right? It's a person. You have the right to have your parents with you during questioning, and you have the right to have a lawyer if you go to court. Okay. We'll pause this video here.